What's up, everybody? It's your boy Joey Work. I'm back with DC. We're doing another division preview. Hope all is well, everybody. DC, how you doing? You ready for Thursday?
Yeah, couldn't be more ready, man. Excited for the start of the season, breaking down the divisions, breaking down these teams. We've been doing it for a while, but good to get something on camera out on the airwaves. And yeah, let's get to it.
Cool. All right, so today we'll do the AL Central. I think this division is wide open. First off, we will start with the Cleveland Guardians because they are the favorite in most sports books. Do I think they win the division? Maybe not, but they are bringing back a lot of the same characters as last year. Pitching is obviously a strong suit with Shane Bieber up top, Tristan McKenzie, number 2, who really took a step forward last year. Then they have inning eaters in Cal Quantrill, Aaron Savali. Obviously, Emmanuel Clase, arguably the best closer in baseball, thanks to his command, 100-mile-an-hour fastball, cutter, and his wipeout slider. James Karinchak, another guy who if his shoulder's healthy, can be pretty damn good. And Trevor Stephan made a name for himself in the playoffs last year when he threw a hitless postseason. The lineup adds fatty Josh Bell into the middle with an already sound, lineup including Joe Ram, Stephen Kwan. Med Rosario had a great year last year, led the AL in triples. Andres Jimenez, another guy that we spoke about before the stream, he should only get better. He's a Gold Glover as well. Josh Naylor, Oscar Gonzalez, Miles Straw round out this Cleveland's team, looking to finally make a splash in the playoffs. I know they made the playoffs last couple of years, trying to finally maybe win a series in the playoffs, win a couple games. At plus 115 in the win division, I personally think that's crazy because I think 3 teams up top can win the division here. No thank you for me. 86.5 total wins. I think that's where they're about. They probably win about 86, 87 games. So I think that's about fair. So I'm going to pass on that. What do you think about the Cleveland Guardians?
I like this team. I like what they did or what they kind of have done with their lineup. They're almost built for the new changes that baseball made. Baseball in 2023 is going to be more contact oriented, more, speed is going to be emphasized. They've got several guys who can steal bases: Juan, Rosario, Jose Ramirez, Andres Jimenez, Miles Straw. Low strikeout rates on this team, which I think is going to be a good thing in this era of baseball. Guys that put the ball in play, guys that can run, athletic guys. So I do like kind of the makeup of their lineup. I think it's a little bit underrated in that aspect, just when you consider kind of the new rules implemented in baseball. A little bit of a lack of power for sure throughout the lineup, which could hold them back a little bit. But again, I do think that's a little bit de-emphasized this year. So I do like the lineup quite a bit. I think they're going to put up consistent runs. They almost seem like a team almost like built for the playoffs a little bit, where putting the ball in play, can manufacture, get to 3 or 4 runs most nights. They're never going to put up, I don't think, or not very often anyway, huge numbers. So, yeah, I like the lineup. The rotation is good. I think McKenzie will take a little bit of a step back this year. I don't think he's quite as good as his 22 numbers indicate. Bieber, he's going to be good too. He does have kind of declining velocity year after year. I'm a little worried that there could be somewhat of a cliff coming for him. I'm not saying it's for sure going to happen this year, but just a little shaky on him as kind of a true frontline ace. And then the back end, Savali, Quantrill, Plesac, like you mentioned, I think you described it well. Innings eaters are these guys. But one thing that does concern me a little bit, all 5 of their starting pitchers are right-handed pitchers. And if you look at the bullpen, they only have 1 lefty in the entire pen. So teams can kind of have a very obvious strategy. Just load up all the lefties against these guys, and you can kind of do some damage that way. So I'm a little bit concerned about kind of the one-handedness of their basically entire pitching staff. You mentioned Karinchak. One change that I think is going overlooked this year, supposedly they're going to be back to reinforcing the sticky substance stuff that lets pitchers have a better grip on the ball. Karinchak, I get the years all mixed up with the pandemic and everything. Everything runs together these last few years. But basically, when they started enforcing it, he became completely ineffective back, I think, in 2021. Last year, they really didn't emphasize it at all, and he got his he throws this fastball that has like the most vertical rise. I guess the proper way is to say the least vertical drop, where it kind of stays at the top of the zone. And there's a bunch of videos from last year of him like grabbing at his hair to get the stuff. And in the spring, he's really struggled, I think, without it. So he's one guy I think could basically fall off a cliff after being one of the better relievers in baseball last year. So I don't know, just a little tidbit there. Clase, I expect to be fantastic. I'm with you. I think he is the best closer in baseball, especially with the injury to Edwin Diaz this year. But yeah, I like the lineup better than the pitching, which I normally wouldn't say with the Guardians. They've kind of been known for their pitching. I think that number, what was it, 86 and a half? I think that's about right on for this team. But I'm with you. I don't think they really have any business being double the number of the Twins and the White Sox to win the division. To me, this feels like kind of a three-way toss-up to win the division. I don't think plus 130 is really justified with this team. I think they'll be solid. Yeah, 85, 86 wins. I'll probably take the under if really pressed, but I think it's a pretty accurate number. Not going to bet it either way, and definitely would stay away from that plus 130 to win the division.
Sure. Yeah. Like, I mean, last year, the White Sox were obviously projected to win the division. And I took the Guardians. I think their under over was like 81 and a half last year. So that was easy. But I mean, like this team, I feel like year after year, this team maybe not looks great on paper, but they continue to be in the mix at the end of the year. You know, they may not.
Don't know how could you possibly say the Guardians have twice the chance to win the division as the White Sox? That's crazy to me. Yeah,
crazy. I totally agree. Yeah. So next team on the odds is the Minnesota Twins. I know this is your favorite team, right? So we'll let you. Well, you could talk about the Twins first.
Yeah, I grew up in the Minneapolis area and a Twins fan, so. Yeah, I'm a fan. Always have been. They let me down last year for sure. DFS wise, people that followed, me and some other Big T, some other DFS guys were kind of big on the Twins for a lot of the summer, and they let us down more often than not. Disappointing year for them last year for sure. Dealt with a lot of injuries, some bad luck. I think I do expect somewhat of a bounce back year here for the Twins. Yeah, the lineup has changed a little bit. The big thing, for a lot of these teams that we talk about, and this just goes for all of baseball, so much of it comes down to which teams can stay healthy, right? You lose one or two stars, it could really change the trajectory of your season. But the Twins definitely have some guys where you're kind of worried about that, right? I mean, they're two arguably best hitters. Carlos Correa, he signed two long-term contracts, first with the Giants, then with the Mets. They both wouldn't hold up to the initial agreed deal because the physical on his ankle was, the imaging, whatever it was too concerning long-term. Twins, eventually he signed with the Twins for still a big deal, but significantly less than what the Giants and Mets were going to sign him for. So I do worry about Correa's health holding up an entire season. And in Buxton, one of my favorite players in baseball when he's healthy, he's 29 years old now and has really never been able to stay on the field for more than, I don't know, like 80 to 100 games most seasons. They're already talking about playing him at DH to start the year, which takes away one of the ways that he contributes most to winning is his incredible defense in center field. He just gets hurt out there all the time, crashing into walls, hamstrings, whatever it is. So hard to rely on health with him. They got Joey Gallo, who, kind of an epic bust with the Yankees. He's actually looked better this spring. I think the change of scenery, obviously way less pressure getting out of the Bronx, going to Minneapolis. I think there's a chance he kind of returns closer to his old Rangers ways, where he was a very valuable player. He's still only 29 years old. The shift rules are really going to help him, maybe, as much as just about anybody. Obviously hits those line drives that, short right field that all become outs. Those will be hits now, so that'll help him. Jose Miranda, I really, really like as a potential budding middle of the order bat. One of the best hitters in spring, 5 home runs, hitting 300. I think he could be a really strong player for them. Nick Gordon, another guy to watch, kind of under the radar that I think can hit. So I think this lineup has potential. It's going to depend on health, but I think they could put up some good numbers. They got some decent depth coming up through the minor leagues as well. Pitching staff, I like it to some degree. Pablo Lopez, they got from the Marlins, traded Luis Arias for him. Looked really good in the WBC, velocity up. Joe Ryan went to Driveline, where they kind of help you, develop your pitches, increase your spin rates. He's been awesome in spring. He's a breakout candidate for me. I've been looking at the Cy Young Award for him. I think he's 40-1. Haven't pulled the trigger yet, but am considering doing so. I think he could be really, really good. Joe Ryan there. Sonny Gray, Tyler Mahle, Kenta Maeda rounded out 3 veterans who I think still have a little bit left. And they do have some arms coming up to the system. Bailey Ober, their 6th starter, I think would be in the starting rotations of 27, 28 teams in the league. I think he's pretty good too, just didn't quite have room for him. So I do like the depth and talent in the rotation, and the bullpen, I think, could be a really, really good strength for this team. They got Jorge Lopez from the Baltimore Orioles. He struggled with the Twins down the stretch, but it looks like he's back to his normal self here in spring. Has been really good and was awesome for the Orioles before the trade. John Duran, again, I think you could argue he's the most talented reliever in all of baseball. He's healthy. Remember the first inning of spring training back in February, he hit like 102.3 on the gun in like February 27th or something like that. He's just an absolute beast. Maybe my favorite pitcher to watch per pitch in all of baseball. Griffin Jax is good. Jorge Alcala. We've got a lot of guys in the bullpen that can hold it down. So I do like this team quite a bit. Maybe it's my Twins bias showing through, but I think they can easily compete with the Guardians. I think it's neck and neck with them. But you get the Twins at plus 215 on DraftKings and the Guardians at plus 130. Give me the bigger number if I'm taking either one of them. What's the total here? Like 82.5, 83, something like that.
84.5 via
84.5. Okay. So yeah, it's kind of weird they're off that much in the division number when the total is just 2 wins. I guess it makes sense. But I think the Twins will be better than last year. I think they've got a good chance to surpass the Indians this year. And I do like them in general.
Yeah. I do agree. I think there are question marks on the offensive end. Obviously, the pitching, I'm interested in, Pablo Lopez. Sonny Gray continues to get the job done. Mr. Reliable, we call him, four pitch mix, continues to pitch really well. Joe Ryan, I guess you're a little higher on him than I am. I'm just afraid maybe because his fastball doesn't have that much velocity on the fastball. But Kenta Maeda, I kind of think he's going to pitch good this year. He's a buy low guy for me in season long fantasy. So I'm definitely going to scoop him up. I probably get him for $1 or $2 in my auction draft. So I'm going to keep him, see what happens there. Jorge Lopez, as you mentioned, the guy he kind of struggled with the Orioles to start, and he's ramped up and got better and better. Last season, 97 mile an hour sinker, 9.1 strikeouts per inning pitched. So he's got really, really good. Duran was a rookie last year, 101. His curveball is probably his best pitch too. I really like Duran, as you mentioned. And then Griffin Jax, Tyler Duffy, all arms out of the bullpen. Obviously, the lineup does scare me a little bit. Losing Luis Arias didn't add much offense from the offensive end. Joey Gallo obviously gets over, but as you said, I don't know if you saw, but a couple of games I saw that the outfielders, they were moving the left fielder to short right rather than having one of the left infielders.
Yeah, you can't shift anymore on the infield, but you can still play with 2 outfielders if you want. Yeah. So that's what they might do with Joey Gallo.
Yeah.
Which we'll see, but I still think even that, you leave a lot of guys.
He's another buy low guy that, you got nothing to lose really on,
Right.
So, he comes back, say he hits 25 home runs for you guys. You should be pretty happy, right? 25, 30 home runs, you should be pretty happy. Obviously, Correa, I think Correa will have a little, ammunition after obviously 2 teams flailed on him and he's on to his 3rd team. Byron Buxton, once healthy, one of the best players in baseball. The question mark is obviously the health. As you mentioned, the mix of vets to fill out the lineup and Kepler, Laurenek, whatever. I do think, this team competes. But again, as I mentioned, the question mark is on the offensive end for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take a wait and watch approach as I've done, as multiple seasons. The lines to win the division, they're not going to go away until like 15, 20 games left in the season. So you can wait, probably get this number even a little better if you want them to win the division. Depending on how they go out the gate, as long as they don't take, a 10-game lead out the gate, you should be fine. So I'm going to take a wait and see approach on the Twins. Next team I have up is the White Sox, who I personally like. I did like them last year as well, so it's not saying much, but the rotation should be good again. Obviously, Dylan Cease up top. His sliders arguably the best in baseball. Lance Lynn, Lucas Giolito, Mike Kopesh. Lance Lynn pitched good in the World Baseball Classic. He did ramp up his last like 9-10 starts. He pitched much better at the end of the year last year. I know he stunk to start the year, but he pitched much better. Kopesh is a guy that I personally like, but he has never lived up to the hype. He's now 26, so it's now, and he's been in the majors for I think this is year 3 or 4. So it is time to do some work here. He throws gas, has a solid put away curveball as well. And then Clevenger is the number 5 starter, looks like, who they signed in the offseason. So they have a good starting rotation. Bullpen, obviously, is missing Liam Hendricks. I haven't heard an update on him. They're supposed to make an update before opening day, but God bless the man. That's all I can say. I don't think he's going to pitch this year, but if he does, it'll just be more help to this bullpen. Obviously, Kendall Graven will likely now be the closer. He was really good last year. His velocity jumped up, and he has a really good slider. And then Aaron Bummer, Renato Lopez, Joe Kelly, all key members of the bullpen back in similar roles as last year. Garrett Crochet, another guy, Jake Dykman. So they do have a good bullpen as well. Obviously, the offense lost Jose Abreu, that key hog in there, but Oscar Colas, if he's ready, should replace him, maybe not to an exact extent as Jose Abreu, but slowly but surely. This guy has a big arm, a lot of power, should play right field, whenever he's ready. I have invested a lot of money in Oscar Colas card, so I am rooting for the guy, not going to lie. And then the rest of the usual suspects back: Tim Anderson, Lou Bob, Eloy Jimenez, Jan Makata. They did add Andrew Benintendi, which they needed help on the defensive end. If we've seen last year, the offense and the defense in the outfield was terrible. So he immediately helps his team's defense. And then, really question marks on this team is really if this offense is going to stay healthy. Eloy Jimenez only played 85-plus games once since 2019. Lou Bob missed 158 games his last 2 years. Makata, Yasmani Grandal are always hurt. So it's a big if, but to win the division, you get plus 300 on FanDuel. I kind of like that. 83.5 wins is their number, which is one game under the Twins via FanDuel. One game less, and they're plus 300 to win the division, almost double the price on the division. So if you're going to bet anybody to win the division, I do like the White Sox at plus 300. What do you think about the White Sox, DC?
Yeah, sign me up for that plus 300 on the White Sox. This feels like a team that has been kind of on the cusp these last 2 years, oozing with young talent. Those outfielders, Lubab, Eloy, kind of leading the way. This is the second division preview that we've recorded. We did of course the AL East first. Check that out on your channel. But we haven't mentioned a manager, I don't think, yet. This is the 8th team we've talked about. But I see a big addition by subtraction for the White Sox. Tony La Russa finally off this team for good. I think managers in baseball matter less than any of the 4 major sports in the U.S. Clearly behind, I think, basketball, football, probably hockey too. I honestly don't know much about hockey, but I'm guessing so. But La Russa, if you watch the White Sox games, you watch as much baseball as I do, just horrible, horrible decisions time and time again. Oftentimes didn't know what was going on. And also, I think just a really, really bad fit with a young kind of, swag-filled roster, right? Young up-and-coming Latin players who, his old grumpy man thinks the game should be played a certain way. I think he held this team back for sure in his managerial in-game decisions, but I'm also guessing just kind of the general vibe. And I think that is even more important, that a manager kind of, presents to Tim Anderson, another guy kind of plays, with emotion, which I like, which I think is good. I think this team, they're healthy coming into spring. Get Eloy off the field. He's clearly a DH. Get him off the field. Seems like they're going to do that. Luis Robert, I know he's been hurt. I do think some of the injuries have been kind of fluky for him. I think he's capable of playing a whole healthy season. So, yeah, it does seem to me like maybe it comes together for the White Sox finally. It kind of seems like, I don't know, the public, the books have kind of moved away from this team. Like you said, they were favorites last year to win the division. Not really much has changed with their roster. You could argue, I think, yes, they lost Hendricks, Abreu, but I think they could be better. So I love that plus 300 to win this division. Lucas Giolito, who took he was awesome in 2021, huge step back last year, but it sounds like he tried to bulk up, maybe gain velocity or whatever. Came into camp this year, I think down 35 or 40 pounds, which, the best shape of his life narrative. You want to take that with a grain of salt, but that's a lot of weight, and he feels better. I think he's kind of going to be back to his old self. You know what Lance Lynn is going to do? Dylan Cease, the one guy who I don't expect to be quite as good as he was last year, but he could take a step back and still be a really, really solid, top end starter. Michael Kopech, oozing with talent. Again, he's dealt with injuries, but you can't ask much more than coming into the season healthy and ready to go, which he is. And then even Mike Clevenger, it wasn't that long ago where he was kind of a borderline ace with the Cleveland, then Indians, now Guardians. Kind of struggled these last couple of years, injuries, some off the field stuff. But I wouldn't be shocked to see him, be a very, very solid number 3, number 4 starter. So kind of like all 5 of their starting pitchers. The bullpen, of course, if Hendricks is out the whole year, which he certainly may well be, takes a step back. But they've got some pretty good arms in there anyway. I think Graveman and whoever else, it sounds like they're going to go closer by committee to start the year at least, can hold up. I think their bullpen will be league average at worst. So, yeah, I like the lineup. I like the rotation. I think the bullpen will be just fine. And I'm with you. They would be my pick, maybe even without the odds, but certainly with the plus 300 to win the AL Central.
Yeah, I like that. All right. Next we have is the Tigers. Detroit Tigers are next up in this division based on odds, and then the Royals. So I'll let you go with the Tigers first.
Yeah, another team, certainly with some bright young talent. Riley Green, he was kind of a consensus top 5 target coming into, this time last year when we were talking about him. I'm sure I brought up Riley Green. I think he was like the 5th overall prospect. Had a good spring training, and then I think he broke his foot, something like that. Like this time last year, like just a few days or maybe a week before the season. That's tough, right? Because then you miss all that time, and then you got to come in to the big leagues. Everyone else is kind of in the middle of their season, and you're just starting off, right? And you kind of miss. You just keep getting warmed up. He's still just 22. I think Riley Green is going to be a middle of the order force for years to come. Has looked really good this spring. So he's a true breakout candidate for me. Spencer Torkelson, I think he was the number 1 overall pick or close to it a few years ago, was considered like the best college hitter of the last decade. Struggled last year, didn't do a whole lot. Sounds like he's made some changes. He's looked better this spring. I think he's like 4th in average exit velocity on batted ball so far in all of spring training. Expect a good bounce back from him. Austin Meadows, another guy, has dealt with injuries, but wasn't long ago when he was a legit slugger on the Rays. He's still just 27 years old. Javier Baez, bad season, talented dude, right? Even Kerry Carpenter, I expect to have a good year. So you look at the lineup, yes, it is full of question marks, but I think a decent amount of those question marks might end up on the positive side for this lineup. So I think the lineup will be better than people expect it to be. The rotation, I have more questions there. Eduardo Rodriguez, Matthew Boyd, Matt Manning, Turnbull, Joey Wentz. Not super inspiring. I have much more faith in the Tigers hitters, their prospect hitters, guys like Green and Torkelson to turn out than I do guys like Manning, who, again, kind of Casey Mize, who kind of were expected to be studs. I don't have a lot of faith in those guys. Maybe they'll prove me wrong, but yeah, I'm kind of lower on this pitching staff. The one guy that has looked really good in spring after dealing with injuries is Matthew Boyd, but even he got scratched from his last spring start, I believe, yesterday. So we'll have to watch that. But I don't love the rotation, but I do think the lineup could be okay. Certainly not picking them to win the division or anything like that. But what's the total on their wins?
69.5.
Okay, I'd take the over on that number. I do think they'll be a little bit better than people think.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like that 69.5. I mean, considering that the Royals are only 68.5, one game lower than them, it's kind of crazy. But I think the Tigers are solely higher than be based on their pitching staff. If you compare the two pitching staffs, it's not even close. But obviously, Eduardo Rodriguez was a disappointment after getting paid last season. I do expect him to be a little bit better. Matt Boyd has good stuff. Is going to put it all together. Matt Manning, he has regressed the last two seasons. He throws a mid-90s fastball. He'll be somebody I'll be looking to bet against this year.
Yeah.
Spencer Turnbull back from Tommy John, so I'm not exactly sure what to expect, but I mean, he did win 20 games 2 years ago. And then Joey Wentz probably to be the 5-star. The bullpen is where a lot of question marks arise. I don't really trust Alex Lang, Tyler Anderson, Jason Foley's probably the best one. Jose Sinceros.
I don't trust any of those guys.
I don't either. Yeah, they traded Gregory Soto for Nick Matten and somebody else. So they got Nick Matten, and I think Nick Matten's going to start in the lineup this year and play third base. They got him over from the Phillies. He's actually slashing 5 homers, 326 in spring ball in 46 at bats, which is pretty damn impressive considering he had 5 home runs all of last year for the Phillies. As you mentioned, Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson should both take steps forward. And Kerry Carpenter in there. So they do have some young talent. This team probably competes in maybe a couple years. They got to get one more starter, I think.
At least one more, yeah.
Yeah. At least one more starter really nails it down, and they maybe compete in this division, which is kind of up for grabs, if you ask me. If there's 3 teams in a division that could potentially win it, I'll say that's up for grabs, So, but again, 1 injury or 2 injuries, Javi Baez goes down or Austin Meadows goes down, this team could be back in the dumps. So, it is a tough. It's a likely stay away spot for me on the total 69.5. I do think they go over that number. As last year, how many games they won last year? As bad as they were, they won 66 last year. As bad as they were, so 3 more games. If they, this banking on health, 3 more games, I think it'll happen. But
Yeah.
realistically, I'm just going to stay away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything you got there? Yeah.
No, I'm with you. I mean, I think most things that could go wrong kind of went wrong for the Tigers last year. So
True.
just needing to win 3 more, yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah. Yeah, so the last team in the division we got is the Royals. I mean, look at this fucking rotation. Zach Greinke, Jordan Lyles, Brad Keller, Brady Singer, Chris Bubik. Holy shit. I mean, like, Greinke should be like the number 3 starter on this team. Even I like Bubik is probably a little, I don't know. Like all these guys are like 3-4 starters on regular
At
teams.
best.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe 4 or 5 at best.
I would say 4 or 5. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, it's really hard to win games when that is your lineup. Obviously, they do have some young talent on the offensive end. Bobby Witt, MJ Melendez has been great. Pasquantino, Vinny has been solid. Salvi Perez is back. Probably 30 home run guy, 25, 30 home run guy. But then the bottom of the lineup is kind of scary as well. I would imagine that they bring up some young talent, but Edward Olivares, Michael Massey, Nathan Eaton, a bunch of young guys that are unproven as of right now. So I do think this is going to be shaky. Their bullpen's not very impressive either. I think they're under overs only 1 game lower than the Tigers. I mean, they did add Aroldis Chapman, but he is a time bomb looking to explode. So I do not trust him either. They did add Ryan Yarbrough as well. So the bullpen did get a little better. Scott Barlow has been solid. I expect he'll probably be the closer. I think Chapman, they'll probably just play matchups with Chapman as essentially the Yankees have been doing the last couple of years.
Chapman's going to be so bad, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. He's been so erratic the last couple of years. He's a head case as well. So yeah, I wouldn't really trust him. And then they do have Amir Garrett as well, Carlos Hernandez. So they do have some names in the bullpen, but not exactly a team I trust. I'm totally going to stay away from their total. They are multiple pieces away from competing in this division. But what do you think about the Royals?
Yeah, I like their top 4 in their lineup. Bobby Witt. I really like MJ Melendez. Salvador Perez looked good after, I think he had thumb surgery in the middle of or early last season, came back, looked like his normal self. And then I'm a really, really big believer in Vinny Pasquantino. I think he's going to have a good year. So that Witt, Melendez, Perez, Pasquantino top 4, I do really like. But even when you compare that top four to other teams' top four, it's not like it's really better than any other top four in the lineup. And the rest of this team is just horrendous. I mean, the rest of their lineup, really not much talent at all. We talked about the rotation. I mean, just brutal. And one thing that happens when you have, five number 4, number 5 starters, like you either have to let them pitch into the 5th, 6th, 7th inning where they're going to get crushed, or you just wear out your bullpen so fast because nobody can go deep into games. And it just kind of has a compounding impact where your team just gets worn out, where already not a very good bullpen has to get in there and try to get 4 innings worth of outs every single day, because these guys are going 5 innings kind of at most nights. So I think Brady Singer is their best starter, but even he, I think, is kind of a number 3 at best. So yeah, I don't think this pitching staff can hold up whatsoever. Bottom of the lineup is bad. Wouldn't touch them to win the division. The total, I think maybe their top 4 is good enough. I do think they're going to try to win games all year, kind of with that young core. A lot of the teams that I kind of want to bet to go under their total are teams that might unload veterans at the trade deadline when the season's not going well. I don't think the Royals are going to trade any of their best players, because their best players are all young guys, Witt, Melendez, Pasquantino, playing in their 2nd, 3rd year in the league. So they're going to hold on to those guys. So they're not a team that I would expect to get worse as the year goes on. Those are the teams that I really like to bet the unders on. So I'll probably stay away from it, but definitely wouldn't touch the over. And I think another mediocre at best season coming here for the Royals.
Yeah. Yep, I agree here. So my best bet for the AL Central will be the Chicago White Sox to win the division, plus 300 via FanDuel. DC, do you have a best bet you want to give away?
I'm going to double down with you. I got the White Sox to win the division. Let's ride.
Nice. Let's go. All right. Appreciate you guys all. Hit the like button before you bounce out of here. If you want to sign up, Run Pure Best, runpuresports.com. Work15 is the promo code. We'll be back tomorrow with another division preview. Peace and love. We're out.